Hello and welcome to the Hotel Marketing Show. In this podcast, we're going to talk about all things hotel marketing. We're going to talk about things that are happening in the industry, insights, things that all hotel marketers or anybody that has an interest in hotel marketing wants to know about. My name is Victoria.
And I'm Nadine.
And we're the hosts of the Hotel Marketing Show. To kick off the podcast today, in this episode, we're going to be talking with Christoph, Director of eCommerce at HHotels, about e-commerce and how that fits into the hotel landscape.
Awesome. To get things started, first of all, Christoph, thank you so much for making the time for us and joining us on our podcast, actually. And just to kick things off a little bit, I would love to know a little bit more about you. Can you tell us who you are, what you do, where you come from, what do you enjoy doing in your free time, anything?
Absolutely. So first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on that podcast, and it's the first time I'm recording a podcast, so I'm really, really excited. My name is Christoph Peppers. I'm 36 years old. I'm from Berlin. I live in Berlin. I have a wife. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter and a cat who's chilling all day. So we live in Kreuzberg here in Berlin. We enjoy actually our life as much as we can. I love my little daughter. We do actually everything we can to just give her the best life possible. You know, going to the playgrounds, going to the zoo and this kind of stuff. I'm personally also very much into cooking, not super fancy stuff, but the good, tasty stuff, the easy, tasty stuff. and I started running again this year. So actually the good New Year's resolutions just kicked in, and I'm still on it. So I'm just working my way up to be a good runner this year. So that's all about me currently.
Nice. Awesome. And I mean, you already kind of like gave it away now. So maybe you'll have to come up with something else, because another question is, what did you start in 2021 that you want to keep doing in 2022?
So to be honest, I actually started working for HHotels in 2021. So that was actually a really, really cool thing, because I stayed at home for about a year with my former employer because due to, Kurzarbeit, you probably know what I mean.
Oh God, now I'm so stuck on it. It's the worst, because there's like this little story. There's like this little ongoing joke at Hotel Champ as well, that I'm so like, my brain thinks in German, I think a lot of the time. So I just say an English sentence and I just like throw in a German word and just continue as if nothing happens.
And then I just nod and smile. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. I know what that means.
But I got the word now, furlough.
Okay. So, and the great thing was actually just to get the job offer for the HHotels, and was so excited to start working with the whole company. And of course, I'm planning to continue working for HHotels the next couple of years. So that's actually one thing. But to be honest, there's no private stuff I started last year. It's more like I stopped doing stuff due to having a new workplace and just getting to know the work and getting to know your colleagues and this kind of stuff, and just trying to be a husband, be a father at home and this kind of thing. So actually unfortunately there's not a big topic or not a big thing I started last year. It's more like, okay, this year kicked off on the 1st of January with running again. So yeah, sorry that I don't have any further cool stuff to share here.
I think running also counts. That's a good one. We can use running as well. Nice. And what's something that you want to see in the hotel industry in 2022?
Well, actually, packed hotels. 100% occupancy, packed hotels. That's something we were lacking last year, most of the time, of course, because what I experienced or what we experienced last year is when I joined HHotels, most of the hotels, or actually all of them, were closed due to COVID, due to the regulations we had. Nobody was actually vaccinated at that time. So, of course, everybody stayed at home. Hotels were actually just not running. Yeah, everybody was at home. So then we saw during springtime and summertime picked up again. People were traveling, mostly, of course, domestic stuff. Domestic travels were just kicking in, especially in July, August, and September. Pretty short term. But this year, I really hope to really have that feeling again, that people are just trying to, as soon as the sun is shining, and it is currently. We are mid of March. We actually have spring vibes already. So I'm just want to see that people are just traveling again. We can employ all of our staff again. We have with 100% workload, that people just feel comfortable again working. That they feel safe working. It's not like, okay, maybe I just have to stay at home 50% of the time. Oh, what about my salary and this kind of stuff? It's more like being comfortable again working in the hotel industry. And of course, for us, from a revenue perspective, that our hotels, not only our hotels for HHotels, but all of the hotels that are out there are packed again. That's really high occupancy, high rates, and that we can actually feel like, okay, we are kind of coming back on track with the whole industry.
Yeah, nice. I like that you talked about not just the business point of view, but also from like the people point of view as well. Like you said, that people feel safe and comfortable to come back to work as well. Because I think like that will be such a big adjustment for people as well, right? Like after 2 years of a lot of restrictions or not working and stuff, then to like come back into a place with like lots of people again, like to feel safe. I think it's nice that you touched on that as well.
I'm actually also super excited, and what you were mentioning as well, just having people who want to as well travel again, because I think that it's been so sad the last couple of years. Even if you look at like little bars or restaurants, if you're roaming the streets and it's all just empty, and now that the restrictions have been lifted and the sun is out and people sit there again, and you kind of want that hospitality feeling to come back to hospitality after COVID. Kind of took that away. Fingers crossed it's going in a good direction.
Absolutely.
Also, I feel like we wanted to touch, well, I don't feel like we wanted to touch, we definitely did want to touch on e-commerce today, and just kind of to introduce the topic of e-commerce. It's such a like broad field when we hear the word e-commerce. Could you give us a little bit of an introduction to what it is, what it means to you, what it means to the industry?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a broad field, actually, in every industry probably, but also in hospitality, which not everybody is aware of still, I think. And for me personally, you can just drill it down to one thing. It's more like, okay, e-commerce means, just for me, bringing the most quality users with the highest booking intention to your website and convert them. So that's probably the main key factor what e-commerce for me is about. But the interesting part is how to get these people to your website and make them convert on your website. There are so many things to drive the users to your website, like the meta channels, like Google Ads, display marketing, affiliate marketing, and so on and so forth. Not to forget about newsletters and this kind of stuff. But it's also then that's probably the way to get the users to your website. But how do you convert them? Do you have a good user experience on your website? What kind of on-site strategic approach do you have? How's your booking funnel set up? What do you focus on when it comes to visuals? What do you focus on when it comes to text and information and this kind of sense? So it's really broad, of course, but that's the fun about it. You can actually, it's not like, okay, it's super easy. You just switch the switch and everything is flowing into your website. It's more like finding out which channel is most useful for you and which you can actually work on, which channel can you improve, or which channel you can develop, and this kind of sense. So there's so much to do there, and there's so much to experience there, and you're not standing still. That's the cool part, because every month, every year, even every week, it seems like, okay, there's a new tool out there that people want you to use, want you to try out, and this kind of things. So yeah, it's super exciting, super interesting.
Thank you for that. I think that was quite clear what it is, what you see it as, and I completely agree. I think there are so many things that changed. I don't want to keep coming back to the pandemic, but really truly it changed so much about like how visitors are looking for a hotel. Their whole search behavior changed entirely. So yeah, definitely a lot of cool new tools popping up, and I'm also guessing a lot for you to like explore and kind of test as well, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you're pretty stuck in the times where you just stick to the old and to the tried and tested, But especially e-commerce is actually an area where you can allow yourself to stick to that pattern, or your own pattern. You have to be curious. You have to be interested in new things. Of course, there's always a line like, okay, that's definitely not something that's important or interesting for us. But if we are talking about these areas that I mentioned before, like Meta, like Google Ads, or Google Ads in general, search ads, display marketing, what kind of agencies do you work with? What kind of approach do they have? It's more like finding the right partner, or even just working together and with them and trying to find new ways with your partner, no matter the area you're working with them in. Just try to not only improve your own skills and results and this kind of stuff, more like also to challenge your partners as well to go the extra step, and not like, okay, just not like being satisfied with the tools you have, with the functionalities a certain tool has. It's more like, okay, you have that, but can we improve that? Can we further extend the functionalities of this and that tool? And that's so super exciting, so interesting. And of course, not every partner is about that. You know, some of them are still maybe pretty stiff or just can't afford to develop certain things. But there are others that are also as keen as yourself to really improve their businesses. And they rely on feedback. They rely on these partnerships to really have that open conversation with them, with their partners, to really develop their own tools as well.
That's really cool. I love that idea of, as well as like obviously working with a partner, not just for the technology that they provide, but also for, you know, their expertise as well, like almost seeing them as an extension of your team and being able to be like, hey, this is actually what we need, or like, this is where we want to go, rather than just being completely driven by what they're telling you to do as well. Another question, like to kind of get a bit more of an introduction to e-commerce as well. Where does e-commerce sit in the structure of a hotel organization? And can you share a little bit about like how you kind of work cross-departmentally as well?
It probably depends on who you ask, you know, where it actually sits. The thing is, the e-commerce department used to sit in Bad Arolsen, where actually the main company address is, where the head office is. And we here in Berlin, we have our revenue department, our channel management department, the analytics department, the reservations head, and so some other colleagues. And that's actually the pretty cool thing, because I think e-commerce belongs to revenue as a head department, let's put it like that. And because it's a constant exchange between all the departments. It's not like only, okay, I'm reporting to the senior vice president of revenue management. It's more like, okay, just discussing with them, but also discussing with the regional teams. Okay, what is your property? What is your region up to the next coming weeks, couple of months, and what can we actually focus on in the e-commerce department to support your goals? You know, it's not like, okay, is there a certain fair? Is there a certain seasonality? Is there this and that? And this conversation never took place before I actually joined the company. And this is not a knock on the previous director of e-commerce. It's more like, because they were this far away, there hasn't been like, okay, I'm just going over to their office and just talk to them. And I think therefore the awareness for the revenue department or the other guys from the internal department is more on focus than it has been in the past. And that's why I'm saying, you know, it also always depends on who you ask. But I think they get a better sense of what e-commerce can actually do for the company. They get a sense of what e-commerce can support them in. And that's actually the cool part. You know, it's a cross-department working relationship, which I really like. You know, in the e-commerce department, we're two guys. My colleague Sarah that joined me this year, and me. But to have these connections to all the other ones has been one of my happy points, or happy things I really enjoyed in the past as well, working for other employers. Especially e-commerce, you can talk to the front office department, you can talk to the reservations department, to the business development department, and so on and so forth, even to the MICE department. And that has been the most exciting thing. You're not like, okay, I'm sitting in my office doing my e-commerce stuff and just writing some ads or whatever. It's more like, okay, getting the insights from the other departments, just working on your own strategic approaches when it comes to ads. Okay, what do I really look for? What do I really focus on for this and that area? And that's the great part of it. That's the fun part about it.
I love that you mentioned that as well, because I think a lot of conversations lately have been around this whole internal communication and changing ways up a little bit from how you used to communicate in a hotel. I think we do have examples where revenue doesn't talk to marketing. They don't really know what they're even doing, like what the other party is doing. So it became more and more important that everyone kind of works together in a collaborative sense in order to bring out something that is, yeah, how can I say? Now I'm missing the word. I feel like it's contagious.
You can use the German word and I'll just like nod and smile.
No, like that everything is like a wholesome kind of strategy, right? Everyone knows what the other person is doing. It's just a way that you bring out a product to your guest or your website visitor, depending on which stage they're at, where someone looks at your website and they see what they can get. They go to the hotel, they get exactly what they felt like they would get on your page. So yeah, super nice. I like it.
I think it's cool as well, like what you mentioned, getting these insights from your other team members who, like other people in different functions within the hotel, where like there's literally like no way that you would be able to get those insights unless you were in that role. And I think it's cool being able to see the value in those conversations and then what that actually brings to your role, and even vice versa as well, right? Like for them to understand like more about what you do, then in turn the insights that they give you are probably more valuable and stuff as well.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, when I first talked to certain colleagues when I joined the company, of course, when you ask them, okay, what do you think is the e-commerce department doing? Well, Google Ads. So of course that is right. That is a correct answer. But of course, it's not only based on that. There's so much more. And I even got to know way more opportunities to work with certain verticals in the e-commerce department before I joined HHotels. I honestly haven't been aware of affiliate marketing. Really, never heard of it. Never worked together with a affiliate network whatsoever. And that's just crazy. And you always get to know more and more things you haven't been aware of in the past. And then that's the cool stuff. You're not standing still. You get to know more things to work with. And you can, of course, educate your colleagues about these things as well, because they probably never heard of affiliate marketing in their lives as well before. So, and of course, they don't have any touch points with them, but that's neither here or there. They don't have to. But as I have these touch points, I can share this information, share the knowledge with them, and of course, it's up to them what they do with that information. But in the end, they know, okay, well, I've seen something here and there that's maybe, let's say it's a cashback website whatsoever, and they can ask me, well, Chris, do we have an agreement with them? Do we have a contract? How is it possible that we are up there on this platform? And I can educate them about them, because we work together with the affiliate network. We have all of our information included in there. We accepted this and that affiliate, and that's why we are up there. And that's the cool thing, actually.
So you mentioned Google Ads, and it sounds like you do a lot of things, right? It's a very versatile role. So I think asking you a question, how does your day look like, is probably a little bit hard to answer for you, just because probably your day looks different Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. But if you could give us a little bit of, maybe today is Thursday. So for example, what does your day look like today, except for recording this episode?
Well, actually, the first things I do in the morning is, after, of course, getting a cup of coffee, is just checking the results of all e-commerce related channels. Like, how does the affiliate production look like yesterday? How much revenue did we get for which properties, and so on and so forth. You check your Google Analytics account. Maybe we had a special promotion running, which we marketed with Google Ads whatsoever. Did it went well? Did it went not so well? And so on and so forth. You check your meta performance, which is actually the most fun for me to do currently, to check the meta performance, because it's really going very well in the last couple of weeks and months, and these kind of things. And then you get into all the projects you have. Currently, for example, we are trying to implement a chatbot, a chat tool on our website. We are having a test period there for 2 of our hotels. We are working on our booking engine, these kind of things. And you just discuss these things with your colleagues, with your peers, and then But you were right, Nadine. Every day actually looks different, and that's also the cool thing. It's like, okay, you're just going to the office, and then checking rates, doing rate increases, doing rate decreases, just putting minimum lengths of stays somewhere, and that is great. I used to do that as well. I worked in the revenue department myself, but now it's the flexibility I have with all the stuff that is going on is so much more fun from a personal view.
Yeah, I think it keeps things definitely interesting as well, right? If you have different buckets of things that you do and it all comes together at the end, it's like kind of like baking a cake, right? You can't just bake a cake with just eggs. You need a lot more than just eggs, and at the end you have a beautiful chocolate cake. So no, I really love that.
And kind of relating back also to like what you do like in your day to day, you mentioned that you like look at like a lot of different results and stuff. How do you measure success in your role? Like for you as the director of e-commerce, what are the kind of like metrics or measures that help you determine if you're like heading in the right direction or doing the right things in your role?
Well, actually, just the main focus is the return on ad spend, because in the e-commerce department, of course, you are pretty much focused on generating revenues through your website, so direct revenues. But of course, you have to spend a lot of money to do that. So it's more like, it actually is as important to spend money to get money. And as you probably know, without any Google Ads budget, you can't run any Google Ads and you can't just convert anybody searching for your properties. So the thing is, ROAS or return on ad spend is this the main metric I look at. Of course, there are other ones, but that's the main thing, because what should direct revenue or direct traffic be about? Saving money. That's the thing. And I'm not wanting to get into a OTA versus hotel debate. I don't care about that. That's neither here or there. We need OTAs, blah, 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 blah. But in the end, it's about a good business mix, a good channel mix, and making your users, your customers book through your own website eventually is cheaper than paying a lot of commission to an OTA. But of course, it's not like, okay, we're just running any Google ads or working together with affiliates and doing display marketing. It's not like, okay, you just put everything out there, start the campaigns, and then we get a high ROAS of 1 to 20 or something. It's of course not always the case. I wish it would be, but it's not. And then you just have to focus on just improving your campaigns, just checking all the statistics, just really get into the details of your Google ad campaigns and why maybe they're not just performing the way you want to. You know, we have regions and properties where you see just like spends or return on ad spends of 1 to 30. There are, of course, properties in cities that you never heard of before, but they're outperforming all the big ones, like the Hyperion hotels, like the HHotels. They are outperforming them with a low marketing cost. And of course, when you compare that to other properties we have in, let's say, Munich or to Berlin, and of course, the competition is higher there. And if you then have like hotels or regions where you don't see that great ad spend or return on ad spend, you just focus on just improving the bidding strategy. You just try to improve all these little things that you can. So that's actually the challenges or the challenges we have when it comes to spending money, but also generating enough money to validate your e-commerce department or your position in general.
That's awesome. It sounds like tweaking lots of little things until you get something that's working well. That's cool. And what do you think are some of the main challenges for e-commerce, for the industry as a whole?
Everything working. So now you think, okay, what does he mean by that? So in the end, as we actually all mentioned before, there are so many companies out there that already have a history and that have great data you can work with, that are just like you guys, Hotel Champ, or maybe it's Triptease or whatsoever. But in the end, you probably need to connect all of the tools you use. No, and that's not like only, okay, this and that tool, this and this company has to speak to each other with an API connection whatsoever. I'm not talking about that. It's more like, okay, how do you connect your partners to your own systems? And it's not only about the PMS system, not only the CRS system, but it's also about your analytics systems. And that's a big topic here, because I have great colleagues sitting in the analytics department that are keen on just onboarding new partners, or if we are planning to onboard new partners, that they are aware of that we need to have an API connection to really pull all the data they can actually provide to us, to really get everything on one platform, because otherwise you could actually just employ 5, 4, 6 guys that are just sitting there all day and updating Excel sheets. And that is no fun. That is super annoying and makes no sense at all. So that's actually one of the main challenges you see, or I see, that really the tools and the systems need to speak to each other. People are aware of that, and companies are aware of that. But of course, we are still not in a situation that we can say, well, of course, just plug it in. You know, that's just not the case. And that's due to the systems your company is working with, or the company that you're working with is not willing to develop any connection to other companies. But sooner or later, we will get to that stage. And it's just a big challenge. And also, and I want just wanted to get into a big discussion here, but the GDPR thing is a pain in the neck. That's just
really
so annoying.
Go for it.
Of course. If that's the case, if that's the law, fine. We're trying to do all of that, and it's so annoying. You know, especially because it's not like everybody is handling it the same way. You know, it's not like the UK has their GDPR standards as the Germans have, and so on and so forth. So of course, when you're interested in working together with a UK-based company, it's always a hassle to get your law department into the mix to really check all the contracts, all the GDPR topics that they have in written form. It's so annoying. It is so freaking annoying. and I can't just repeat myself enough. It is freaking annoying. So that's just even a bigger challenge than just connecting all the tools together. But yeah, that's actually the thing. One thing I was thinking about as well is what can actually bring a lot of hassle to your workflow is to have, like having tools or having companies or partners you work with actually providing similar functionalities. It's like, okay, maybe you have this tool that has a pretty standalone product that you are interested in, and that's why you sign a contract with the company. But they also have further tools and functionalities that are really interesting. But actually, the other company you're already contracted has the same functionalities, and then it's like, okay, now we actually have to pay two different companies, and we have contracts with two different companies that, let's say, for maybe 50-60% have the same tools, but as we are just keen on using the main tool or the main functionality, you're like, okay, but therefore we have to have both available. We have to have both working with each other. And that's something that I wouldn't say we struggle with, absolutely not, because we try to be actually aware of these things. We discuss with our colleagues, okay, what are the tools you are working with? What are the tools you are working with? And we discuss it on a regular basis to really see, okay, are there similarities? And could we actually get rid of one or two, or do we really need both of them whatsoever? And it can be pretty saddening as well, because sometimes you build up a relationship with a partner and you think like, okay, good, the partnership is really going well, the functionalities are good, the tools are working well, if it's about revenues, you get the revenues in, blah, 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 blah. But then there's maybe even a bigger company that has that same functionalities in their portfolio, but it's doing further stuff that's way more important to your company. Okay, I hope you know you get where I'm going to.
I definitely get what you
so
mean.
relatable. I think
Yeah.
so we work with like a mix of like marketing people, revenue people, e-commerce people, and the number of times that you hear from people who maybe they're in marketing and like revenue has no idea that marketing is using Hotel Champ at all. And it's just like, I think so that unity and sharing, like the tech, but also being aligned on like what your goals and your metrics. I think that you can only set your team up for success like if you're doing that, and it's like, yeah, consolidating, aligning. I think it really helps to strengthen a team.
Yeah.
So when I listen to you, I'm like, okay, everyone needs an e-commerce manager, definitely. So my next question actually, and I mean, you might be a little bit biased, but does every hotel need an e-commerce manager? How do you see it? Or do you think that depending on the size or the location or the growth, is there any hotel that wouldn't, for example, need it?
Probably yes. I think especially big companies or hotel groups, hotel companies, hotel chains need them. But of course, there are smaller hotels or more regional hotels where the focus is way different when it comes to the guests they have. When we talk about like city trips, Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, Leipzig, whatsoever, of course, there's a high need of e-commerce management, I think, because then you just need to do all this stuff, like making people aware, because the competition is this big. You need to make people aware of your property, of your hotel, to really make them book through your own website. If the goal is making it cheaper or just reducing costs, there are hotels out there that are like, okay, we get most of 80-90% of our business through booking.com, and we are fine with paying like X% commission. And that is absolutely fine. That's just a strategic decision the GMs or whoever makes, and that is absolutely fine. So they then don't need an e-commerce manager probably, because they get all their guests in with one or two channels, maybe just add another OTA whatsoever, or wholesalers, whatever. But if we are just talking about reducing cost, making people aware of your brand, of your company, it's like, I think people are more interested in booking on a hotel's website, because you have just another experience there, and probably depending on your rate strategy, you have a cheaper rate there, and that's also a big factor. I think if you have, of course, the likelihood that people will book on your website is way higher than just going to booking.com, even though they are Genius members or whatsoever. So yeah, it depends. I think most of the hotels, most of the chains need e-commerce departments, but of course there will always be hotels that are out there that are just maybe just focusing on recreational offers. Do you know what I get? Like 7 or 14-day stays where you just get your body right again or your health right. So I think that's nothing interesting for OTAs and this kind of stuff. People will know where to book that, or just catalog bookers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting because I mean, I think one shoe doesn't fit all, right? So, of
Yeah.
course, there's always going to be exceptions to who needs what departments and how big and what do they focus on. And I think that's also something we see with like a lot of hotels that we work together. I mean, they're all so different and all so unique, right? You're never going to find one that is the same as the other one. Yeah, nice. I liked your answer. Very nice answer.
And looking ahead into the future, where do you think that e-commerce is heading? Like, maybe say like in the next like 5 years or something, where do you see e-commerce heading?
Good question. Next question. No, but seriously, I'm certainly not a guy to actually plan way ahead or to predict the future. These questions in your interview, like, okay, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I hated these questions. From my perspective, they're just stupid because I'm not worrying about myself in the next 5 years. I just want to get a job and just doing a great job in that. So, but in the end, I think probably what I could say is that, or what I can surely say is that automation will probably be more of a focus, and not like to reduce the staff or the number of staff. It's more like just helping staff when we talk about like the chatbots, for example. But in the end, like automation to take off the workload of your staff. I think this is one good aspect that probably will be more in focus during the next couple of years. I think outsourcing is a good point, and it's nothing new, of course. But what I've seen in the last couple of months, or since I'm working for HHotels, you just have 24 hours a day. And of course, you're not working all of these 24 hours. You have family, you have a kid, you have friends, you want to go out for a drink or whatsoever. And just outsourcing certain things just makes your life easier, But of course, I think, you need to have a certain awareness of the things you are outsourcing and a certain knowledge of these things. If I've never heard about Google Ads, for example, and I would tell an agency, yeah, please just run ads for us. So, well, of course, they will probably do that, but as they probably might recognize, I'm not really aware of what this actually means. They would just do their thing, get the money, blah, and so on. And I would probably be happy with a return of 1, 2, 3, So you have to have a certain level of knowledge to really make agencies or partners aware of what you are focusing on or what you try to achieve. And then they can do your work or the work that you're not able to do because you just have limited staff or limited time in general. And what I mentioned earlier, like these connections, like API connections, what are they there for if you just don't use them? I think there will be way more focus on that to make systems speak to each other and to pull data more easily from different kind of partners than it is right now.
That's cool. I like that answer as well, because I think a lot of the challenges like we're hearing from the industry at the moment is obviously post-pandemic. There's been a lot of people leaving companies, like starting new companies, or even like leaving, for example, like I've heard of a lot of hotel marketers like leaving even like the hotel industry and going somewhere else. And I think, like you said, like automation helps, especially if you have like a tighter team, but then working with an expert or like working with an agency or a partner who can actually help make your life easier rather than add extra tasks or extra burden to your team. So I think it's cool. Nice outlook for the next 5 years.
Yeah, for the fact that you didn't like the question, I thought the answer was great. So, I mean, there were so many good points in all of this. And actually, this is probably, it's always my favorite question, even though I have a lot of favorite questions, but
Nadine's a tough judge on this question as well.
Yeah, because for me, what I'm interested in as well is what are your 3 main takeaways? And I know 3 is always like a weird number, but we'll see. If you have 4, please also share 4 with us, or 5 or 6. But what are your 3 main takeaways that you have for hoteliers or e-commerce managers?
E-commerce is great. E-commerce is cool. And e-commerce rocks.
Nice.
I love that.
Right.
It's easy, simple.
Easy.
Simple and easy. No,
E-commerce
of course.
is life.
It is. No, the thing is, e-commerce has such a big variety of fees. That's actually the thing we talked about the whole time. There's not just one path you can go or just one partner out there that you can use or work with. You have so many ways to get people to your website. You have so many ways to improve the user experience for your customers, for your users. And that's such a cool thing. So e-commerce just makes the online life for hotels way better, I think, because you have people to really focus on these things, on these strategic points to how do you get the people to your website. And if you have a web agency or actually web staff in your company working for you. You can actually just have a 1-2 punch to really. One is taking care of getting the people to the website, and the other one is just taking care of how do you develop the user experience on your website. The other thing, the second thing is meta is key. Because meta is just has been actually the main topic for me since I started working here. And meanwhile, we see such great results working with all the meta channels out there. Of course, the main players are Google, Trivago, especially here in Germany, and TripAdvisor. But you also have Kayak, you have Bing, which is pretty interesting. You have what else? We have Skyscanner and WeGo. Of course, more interesting than the other, or you get more revenues through one channel than through the other, due to, let's say, user groups or maybe just the point of sales. Where is a certain channel mainly used, of course? But Meta, especially for Google, is so important, or got so important. It even for me currently at this point, it's even more important than any Google ads that you just run for your properties, because you are visible, you are out there. And actually, in the last couple of weeks, just Google updated the Meta listing. In the last couple of months, it was like, okay, you search for a certain hotel, you have your Meta listing, you have Booking.com, maybe hopefully your own website, and to other channels. And all the other channels like that, the other option was closed, and you just click on it, and then you see a drill down menu where you see thousands of other channels. And they actually changed that to show more channels, in addition to the 4 above that actually just competing with each other on a minutely basis. Who has the better CPC? Who's just bidding more for the customer? And that's actually currently a big plus for hoteliers. You just have to, well, quote unquote, have to connect to Google, and you don't have to invest a lot of money to be visible. And if you haven't done this before, that's actually the good way to start with the meta positioning, especially on Google. And of course, then if it's going very well and you just want to increase your performance or improve your performance, of course, then you can think about it, just adding the CPC or CPA model to it and see even better results. But that's actually, Meta is actually the top focus currently from me to really just to see really good results there. It's currently really way more important than Google Ads, to be honest.
I hope everyone's just been taking notes. If they haven't been taking notes, make sure you re-listen to that and then take some notes, because I feel
just save the episode and just re-listen it all day. And of course, the third thing, it would be just invest in your e-commerce department if you can. It's always a topic, a budget topic. A thing about budget. If you have chance to invest into an e-commerce department, or at least into an e-commerce manager, this just doesn't have to be a big department in the beginning. But to make people aware of e-commerce is really important. Get someone working for you to take care of all these things we talked about, because it's not like, okay, and this is something you can't outsource from our perspective. You can probably outsource an e-commerce manager. Maybe there are some freelancers out there, probably. Maybe you just have to look them up on LinkedIn, whatever. But to really make sure to cover all these aspects and all these points and all these topics, you should really focus on, or think about adding an e-commerce manager to your team and to your company to really make sure everything is covered.
Nice, that's awesome. Great takeaways. I think Nadine also approves of those.
Yeah, great takeaways.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. I feel like we covered a lot of topics, but I feel like it was really nice to do a bit of a deep dive into what your role is and what e-commerce looks like as well. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
So exciting to be on the pod. Yeah. Thanks for having me again.
Of course, anytime.
For those of you listening at home, please share your thoughts with us. If you think there's anything else that we've missed, or if you have any questions about any of the topics that we covered today, please get in touch with us at welcome@hotelchamp.com, and make sure to follow Hotel Champ on all of your favorite social media channels. Stay tuned for more episodes in the future. Take care of yourself. Have a great day, and bye-bye.